Arsenal versus the rest versus Arsenal. It's always Arsenal standing against the rest, and the rest standing against Arsenal. So, what does it mean? So, today we look at Arsenal and the status of the club. So, Arsenal are in a crisis, no doubt. And if you doubt it, probably you're not looking at it right, or probably you're looking at a wrong angle. But Arsenal Football Club is in a crisis, and in this video we are going to talk about 4 or 5 reasons why I think Arsenal are in a crisis, and what it means for the club in this season. If these things are not resolved, then we may be having another trophyless season. Sad as it may look, but that could be the reality that we are facing. So, number one reason why I think Arsenal are in a crisis is injuries. Arsenal are going through an injury crisis at the beginning of the season. Quite unfortunate for them, because this is always the moment when you expect clubs to kind of find their rhythm, find on their tempo, get things right, the tactics right. But then now they have to attempt all this without key players. Martin Odegaard is out. The captain has been out for several weeks now. And before that was Calafiori. He signed for the Arsenal, and then he got his injury. And then apart from that, we had Mikel Merino signing and then getting a shoulder injury during training. After that, we had Jurien Timber also having another injury. So and then we also had Benny White having an injury. So these injuries are crazy, man. Really disorienting Arsenal at the moment, and Mikel Arteta basically has to improvise and modify things. This was a season when it was expected that Arsenal could pick from where they left. They have tried, despite all these players out with injuries, they have really tried to be number 3 on the log, and only having lost 1 game out of 8. I find that commendable, but these injuries are really derailing Arsenal. They are jeopardizing any momentum, any rhythm, and they kind of leave Arsenal short, because be as it may, Arsenal's squad lacks depth, very limited. Remember, they had to let players like Fabio Silva leave, and so when Fabio Silva left, then it meant that Mikel had to rely on Ethan Nwaeri, which he rarely uses, to be a shift for Odegaard, and he's not using, to this moment, he has not used Ethan. Arsenal just have to find a way of resolving their injury crisis. Probably their physio or department need to dig deep and need to really work on something. It's nice that Thomas Partey has played several matches this season without injury, because last season and the previous one, ever since he signed for the Arsenal, he has been having constant injuries. So his injuries always jeopardized Arsenal's competitive chances. But this season Thomas is fit. But what happens when Thomas is fit? Other players in other critical departments are having injuries. So injuries crises are really affecting Arsenal, and Mikel and his department and technical team and everyone involved really need to find solutions to this. Another crisis at the Arsenal is Arsenal are victims of officiating. In the first 8 games of the Premier League, they have played 3 of them with 10 men. This is not good, because these suspensions and red cards coming in means that they have to miss these other players in subsequent matches, not only in the current game but the subsequent matches. So in 2 games, Arsenal were able to sustain draws, which was commendable. One was against Manchester City, big result for them, especially away to the Etihad, and then they drew 1-1 with Brighton at home, and now they lost 2-0 to Bournemouth away. So this officiating decisions are affecting Arsenal. Whether these decisions are legitimate or maybe errors in officiating really doesn't matter. But what matters is that whenever an Arsenal player is booked or sent off, then it becomes difficult for the Arsenal to play 10 men, and also to in future games where they have to miss critical players. Like for example, they had to miss Declan Rice, they have had to miss Leandro Trossard, and now they will be missing Willow Saliba for the Liverpool fixture at the Anfield. Look at how this is affecting Arsenal, and Arsenal now are the most booked side in terms of red card. They are the most suspended side, so it means that there is a problem, and if Arsenal do not just check how to manage things, probably they're looking at having a record of red cards this season. Now, we have said before that the officiating is very much anti-Arsenal. There is a subconscious bias towards Arsenal, and matches keep on proving this, where Arsenal players receive bookings and sometimes sent off for what are ignored in other games. So this is a crisis Arsenal has to deal with, because if it affects the tactics, it affects the rhythm, it affects the cohesion, it affects the teamwork that this club needs to have, especially now. So that's also one thing that really is detrimental to Arsenal's chances this season. And then the third one is the non-impacting transfers. To this moment, Arsenal's transfers, summer transfers that include Raheem Sterling, Mikel Merino, and Ricardo Calafiori. Only Ricardo Calafiori has been impactful to the Arsenal side. We are yet to see Mikel Merino's brilliance, and this is partly because he came in, got injured, and now he has to force himself. He's been introduced to the game, had his first start recently when we lost to Bournemouth, but it wasn't really impactful as it needs to be. So there is still time for him to gain some rhythm, gain some cohesion. He has said that Arsenal's training are really out of a level he wasn't used to at Real Sociedad, and so we expect that he adjusts, and this may take time, especially when you're coming from La Liga and coming into the English Premier League, where the game has got intensity and all those kind. This is despite the fact that Mourinho played for Newcastle some couple of seasons before. But what we need to know is that he is a Spanish player, and Spanish football is quite different with the English Premier League or English football. So Mikel Mourinho, to this point, to the few minutes that he has played, has yet to show or yet to be impactful to the Arsenal, but we hope he's gonna be impactful. And then we have Raheem Sterling, who is also yet to really help Arsenal in the roles that Mikel Arteta has deployed him to do. So his side is also a flaw. So two critical signings to the moment not really living up, but we give them time because that is what we need to do, and we need to support them as our players. But we need also to say where the problem is. These players are not but we hope they get to show effect and pose and tempo. They get to assert themselves in the game and start contributing to the Arsenal's game. Yeah, so that's the third one. So the fourth one, we're looking at the media and opposing fans. The media is very much anti-Arsenal, and this is something Arsenal has to deal with. It is a crisis that is as old as Arsenal, so it's something that perennial, ongoing. The media really exaggerating their comments about Arsenal, being so negative against Arsenal. If Arsenal draws a game, then their title request is put into weighing machine, that becomes the debate. They start discussing how the club is has got weak mentality and all those kind of things. And these are not things they do to clubs like Manchester City, because when Manchester City gets a draw, they don't discuss it. When Liverpool doesn't collect all 3 points, they don't discuss about their mentality and their readiness to challenge for the trophy. But come when Arsenal draws a game or drop points, then every media from BBC, Sky, and all those mainstream media really control some negative information and negative debates and topics about Arsenal. They kind of framing or agenda setting the fans against Arsenal, and the opposing fans have really been on Arsenal case. And so this is a problem, because sometimes it gets in the psyche of the team. So it's upon the team to really try to ignore all this negative opinion about them that are so much into the media. Mika Richards have always said that when it comes to Arsenal, everyone's to lump in. So if Bukayo, let's say Bukayo, his form drops a little, the media is going to be against him. Look at how they are comparing every young upcoming player to him, and sometimes even arguing that Bukayo is not a world-class player, that some of these young players who just have had one season are better than him. They are comparing Bukayo to newbies, and Bukayo has been here 4 seasons. So this is really going to be something that Arsenal need to really look at. And then the last challenge that Arsenal really, the counterproductive fan base, toxic fan base. There is a section, a proportion of Arsenal fans who are very counterproductive to the cause. Like they're just waiting for Arsenal to drop points, and then they start having all these critical, negative reviews against the squad, the players, the coach, and everything. People like Troops, for instance, are really counterproductive to the Arsenal. They shout so much. They have got large following, and that's the problem, that because they have large following, and with all their venom and bile and negativity, they end up controlling a large opinion among the fan base against the coach, against the boys and everything. So they are we expect them to rally and support the club, especially when the club draws, but or when the club drop points, but they're not doing that. They are really decampaigning the side. They are in a way also acting like the opposing fans. When the opposing fans are busy trolling and criticizing Arsenal, this toxic and counterproductive fan base that Arsenal has are also doing the same, and this is very unfortunate. So these 5 issues must really be solved, but they fundamentally point at Arsenal's major problem. So Arsenal are in a crisis. The results are hard to come by. You see how much the team struggle to scrap in wins, how much they're struggling to get 3 points, which is still good, because if in their worst start or form they are able to get these wins, that's encouraging. But these problems must be fundamentally solved. So we just